The following program is intended for mature audiences.
A democratic republic of sports. The Sportsocracy with ESPN.
Sportsocracy YouTube channel. Tank Spencer's on vacation. Jeremy is here physically. I think his mind is on vacation, though. So you've got me, Caleb Peak, sitting in Tank's seat, CPKVL. Go ahead and give me a follow on Twitter if you like. I'm joined by Brian Haynes. You know this guy already, B Sportsocracy on Twitter. Bri Guy.
Yes, sir.
First time we've been given the keys to the kingdom. I don't know why they trust us with this, but glad to have you here with me.
Well, as long as we don't burn the ship down, I think we'll be just fine, my friend.
Yeah, well, over the next hour, we're going to see how well that goes. Lots to talk about here on the Sportsocracy this morning. We're getting away from the NFL draft, but still plenty of NFL news to talk about, especially when it concerns one Aaron Rodgers. Number 12, not happy with the situation up in Green Bay. We'll get back to that in just a few minutes. We're also going to talk about John Means. We don't get to talk a lot about baseball here on the show, but this is a day when we're going to have to, Brian, because a historic performance by the Baltimore Orioles. John Means last night, one pitch away from getting the perfect game. He was a wild pitch away from having the perfect. Still gets the no-no, and it was quite the performance for him last night. What were your impressions?
I mean, absolutely incredible performance. Faced the number of batters that he needed to face, 27 up. Well, not necessarily 27 up, 27 down. He did have the third pitch, wild pitch. Turned that into a double play, got it over with. Did face the minimum. I find that one of those weird baseball rules that I never quite understood. I mean, he did reach base, which is understandable. It was considered a K, wild pitch. That's actually one of those weird rules that I actually kind of agree with because someone did reach base. So I consider it that's not a perfect game. But we'll go into more detail about it because it was an actual really huge historic performance on someone who's going to be the ace of the Baltimore Orioles going forward.
Yeah, in order to get the perfect, you have to retire all 27 batters in a row as they come up. John Means one batter shy of doing that. They were able to get him out at second base, though, caught stealing. So first time in almost 53 years for the Baltimore Orioles, or that an individual no-hitter has been recorded. 1969. You've got to go all the way back then to the last time this happened. That just shows how far baseball has come. The level of the product that we're seeing is much, much better.
And we know that Stephen Tao is definitely 100% happy because he is definitely a Baltimore Orioles fan. Want to give a shout out to Stephen Tao. Join us in the comments already, but I know that you were very happy with the performance for your ace last night.
Much easier to be a Baltimore Ravens fan lately than a Baltimore Orioles fan.
Absolutely.
A little bit to cheer about last night. Speaking of the NFL, let's get back to this Aaron Rodgers story. Big weekend in Green Bay as we've had all kinds of bugs in Aaron Rodgers' ear. You've had A.J. Hawk talking to him some. You've had John Kuhn hanging out with the soon-to-be Hall of Fame quarterback as well. And they're all kind of telling him different things. Some of them coming at him from a business perspective. Some coming at him from more of a personal, respect-based front. So I need to get your input on this, Brian. Is it business or is it personal?
I think this is 100% personal. Here's some things. If you go down a time, this isn't something that's just happened recently. You can go back to when they released Jordy Nelson without talking to him, who was his number one receiver. They released his quarterback coach without telling him. They didn't talk to him about the hiring of LaFleur. That was a contentious relationship at first. I think it's kind of, on field at least, has turned into pretty good because you can see what their record is together. Here's the thing. All Aaron Rodgers wanted was to know that he was part of the future of the Green Bay Packers. You got a guy that just came off an MVP year. If I'm the Green Bay Packers, I look at this and I'm immediately signing him to a 3-year contract extension. I mean, that's what I want to do. I mean, you gotta give the guy something that he can do. I like that.
He's already under contract for 3 years.
Oh, well.
Through 2023,
make him happy with some guaranteed money. They can get an out. There's been over there on the other side, our good friends Jeremy Greene and Tommy Bradley are letting me know that he's under contract. But it's about some money. He just wants to know that he's part of the future. They drafted Jordan Love in the first round last year, which was absolutely stupid. Traded up to get Jordan Love, and all accounts out of Green Bay are that this guy can't actually play at all. And if Jordan Love could play, there would have been a trade that happened already. But they know where they're at. They're like, oh, we're not going to trade him because we know we don't have another quarterback in the room. Now, here's the thing. they're calling Aaron Rodgers bluff, which I think is a mistake because Aaron Rodgers is dug in. We've seen what he's done with, just his immediate family, where he can just cut him off and not give a crap.
Absolutely.
He's got Jeopardy thing happening. His fiance is
Shailene Woodley.
Yeah, she's A-list actress. Some would say B-list actress, but she's been in some big things. She makes lots and lots of money. I don't understand the reasoning for this whole thing to be going down. It shouldn't be happening. And I think it kind of comes back to the fact that the Green Bay Packers really don't have an actual owner and someone to basically police your president and your general manager. Because if there was an actual owner of the Green Bay Packers, I would think that they're saying, let's get this Gutekunst out of here. Let's get Aaron Rodgers back in. And now we kind of talk about where if this isn't going to work out, and I'm under the understanding that 100% he's not going to play another down for the Green Bay Packers, where are some of the landing spots that you think are possible for Aaron Rodgers?
Well, can you think of anywhere besides Las Vegas?
Yeah.
That would be a perfect fit for Green Bay. I'm listening to some of the talking heads yesterday all across the nation, and it really comes down to this Shailene Woodley character is going to be much more of a factor in this than we care to admit, because she works in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It's a short commute from Southern California to Las Vegas. The numbers would work out. Who are you going to? Aaron Rodgers is an immediate starter, of course, when he goes to Las Vegas. And if Green Bay wants to have a pissing contest with one of the greatest quarterbacks of our time, they're going to lose, especially since he's a man in the twilight of his career. How much longer do you really have if you're Aaron Rodgers? You're lucky to get 4. I think 3 years from now, the old man's going to have to call it quits, but you're going to get 3 more solid years of performance out of Green Bay. If you want to play the hard game and force him out, then he's going to go to a franchise that he can succeed with. He can compete and succeed in Las Vegas. John Gruden would be over the moon to have a talent like Aaron Rodgers on staff.
Yeah, obviously that is, I think, the number one landing spot. As Jeremy Greene has already told us on both this show and the ESPN radio show, 880 AM, 1400 AM, and 92.9 FM, and ESPN Asheville, also on the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you guys check them out.
Not today, not because of the Braves, but tomorrow.
We're actually going to be on with Mr. Tank Spencer tomorrow on the radio show, so make sure you guys tune in and listen to us. Trying out a couple little new things. We're going to be a little bit more interchangeable around here. Make sure that we can get new faces and new places and all kinds of good stuff going on.
Jeremy's going to be drunk on a golf course.
Jeremy says he will be drunk on a golf course tomorrow, which is awesome.
I'm surprised you're sitting up right now, honestly. I didn't think I would see you this morning.
Yeah, we are glad to have Jeremy here today.
Somebody to keep us in line. I'm glad Tommy is here as well, because I'd heard about the John Kuhn situation. John Kuhn spent some time with A-Rod, putting a bug in his ear, telling him that, hey, Green Bay owes you a security contract. They owe you a security blanket to get to the end of your contract. You shouldn't have to, it's kind of like getting to the end of retirement.
Yeah.
You make it to 67, 68 years old, and then you get $400 a month from Social Security. It's just not enough to cover it. If you're Green Bay, it seems like it would be the right thing to do to offer Aaron Rodgers kind of a nice parting contract.
Yeah.
We'll get you out of here on your terms, because this is 2 quarterbacks in a row now that Green Bay has made a god-awful mess out of at the end of their careers.
That's 100%. Aaron Rodgers knows Brett Favre's situation. He was 100% there and present for what happened. And I can just see him saying, holy crap, it's happening again. And it really shouldn't be that big of a surprise. But it's happening once again. Here are some landing spots that have been reported, or not necessarily reported, that just have been out there. I don't want to say reported because, every website in the world can say, oh, here's a spot for Aaron Rodgers, and here's the thing.
And they do.
And, obviously the talk about Denver was out there prior to the draft. Immediately, as soon as this came up, that was something that was mentioned. Now, that would include a combination of Drew Lock or whatever, and multiple first-round picks, second-round picks, all kinds of different stuff. Denver is not necessarily as far to the West Coast as most people would think. It's actually, if you take the time difference into effect, it's only an hour-and-a-half flight.
It's not bad.
With the time difference. Now, the body is different than actual time, but that's not that bad of this. So if we're taking into consideration the whole Shailene Woodley effect of the decision-making here. Now, then you get into the San Francisco. Obviously, he grew up in that Bay Area. He wants to go back there. He actually told him, there were some reports there was an actual package sent to Green Bay that was thought to possibly get Aaron Rodgers in return, and Aaron was upset that they didn't take that because he wanted to be in San Francisco. So that's obviously another landing spot. Here's a couple that are out there that I heard, and which are weird, but these are I'm just throwing out what things I'm hearing, and I want to see what people think about these. So
you're on the internet, you can get away with anything.
Yeah, the Cleveland Browns name has been brought up. They are a team that is loaded with talent. As far as young talent goes, they could probably get players in return for Aaron Rodgers, maybe even ship off Baker Mayfield, and that would be something. Now, I don't think that's happening. But if you can get rid of some of the younger pieces or the loaded pieces that Cleveland has, and you can bring in Aaron Rodgers and get rid of your Baker Mayfield situation, that would be absolutely crazy for that. I don't know if that could even possibly happen with money. That's more of the Jeremy thing when it comes to these kind of things, because I don't know. I don't know how that money thing works out. Again, I'm just showing things that I saw, which were crazy. And then there was one more name, and it's going to sound weird, but the New York Giants name came up on a couple different things where they would send Darius Slayton or Daniel Jones with lots, because they've accumulated a lot of picks next year's draft. They have 2 1s, 2 3s, and 2 4s, so they could send some sort of crazy package with them to that. New York also being an entertainment capital of the world, may be on that side for that. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's just some names that were thrown out there. And I just, it's kind of crazy. And at this point, I think Green Bay needs to do one of two things, Caleb.
What's that?
I think they need to either decide and go all the way in on Aaron Rodgers being with them, get rid of Gunquist, and you got Aaron Rodgers happy, which I don't know if we're going to be able to do, or you trade him out right now.
Yeah. And I think for Green Bay, the choice is clear. I mean, Green Bay, you've made your choice if you're Aaron Rodgers. At this point, this isn't really a conversation that needs to be had. It seems like two paths are diverging. They're going in opposite directions. Aaron seems to be all but finished with Green Bay, and they seem to be all but returning the favor.
Right.
The writing seems to be on the wall. San Francisco will be a lovely landing place for Aaron Rodgers as far as the end of his career is concerned. But with Trey Lance, it looks like the future is already kind of established there. And, again,
I think that's what they were thinking about. Maybe they would get back in return. And there's things that are said. I think prior to the draft, it was the third pick was involved in that, which they could have used to do these kind of things. And I think when it comes down to it, if the Green Bay Packers do decide to trade Aaron Rodgers, I think it's going to take a haul. I think it's going to take multiple draft picks, and I think it's also going to take some actual players, not just future players. I think it's going to take some established players in this league to get back from him. And again, it's just at this point, it's become the craziest soap opera. And it's so funny. The only difference in this situation than the Brett Favre situation is that the overwhelming thing around the league was that Aaron Rodgers could ball, and he can. And Green Bay knew that he could ball. And they were saying, you know what, when Brett was saying, I'm going to retire, after a while they were finally like, you know what, heck with it. We know that this kid here that we drafted and we sat behind you has thing. Now, at this point, they traded up for Jordan Love, who not only is unknown, but I think they pretty much hid him because of how bad he is. Not to mention another report from a guy from Green Bay a reporter from Green Bay was on the morning show on the ESPN the other day, and they said that, they did have a backup quarterback. I think his last name was Boyle. I can't remember what his first name. Tim Boyle. There was reports out of Green Bay that this kid actually had an Aaron Rodgers arm. Not necessarily was Aaron Rodgers, but had an Aaron Rodgers arm. And it was something and now he's no longer on the team. He's actually in Detroit, a rival of theirs, which is kind of funny. So, I just don't know what they have to do. I think if they make a trade, they have to get a quarterback in because Jordan Love's not the answer. I think they have Jordan Love as a quarterback right now.
He is, yes.
I don't even know. Going into OTAs, I don't even know if they have a third or a fourth quarterback on the roster right now. There's been reports this morning that came out saying they're on the look for a veteran quarterback out there, and I'm just laughing my ass off because I'm like, God, you guys are screwing yourselves to no end here.
Right. You got to have something to give up to get that veteran quarterback. And I brought that up with Jeremy, the fact that the notification came across that Green Bay is actively looking for quarterbacks, and he laughed in my face and told me not to worry about it whatsoever. So if that's true, it has to be Jordan Love moving forward. Because if the situation between Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers is irreconcilable, you've got to move forward in a hurry.
Yeah,
and you can't expect that this is going to drag on past the OTA date, because that's when things begin to get expensive. Once you're required to show up for training days, I've got the figure down here somewhere. It's something like $1,037 per day. Oh no, $15,515 fine for your first missed day of mandatory training camps. I don't care if you make $37 million a year. I'm not going to throw that money away just by not being there. So Aaron Rodgers is a businessman. He's got a decision to make, and he's on a deadline.
Yeah, and I know that after June 1st, his guaranteed money would come down. So I don't think, obviously, if there was going to be a trade, it wouldn't happen until after then.
Right.
Everything's going to be speculation, I think, at least until that point. And after that, I'm not sure what's going to happen with it.
Yeah, the situation with Aaron Rodgers is not looking good for the Green Bay Packers. If you're a fan of the Las Vegas Raiders, I think things are about to turn around out in the desert quickly.
It would be all this talk about me saying that the Las Vegas Raiders are going to be really bad next year, going to really bite me in the ass if Aaron Rodgers ends up going there.
But one last thing before we move on from the Green Bay thing.
Yeah.
Even if you can't fix your differences with Aaron Rodgers, I think Green Bay has to take one thing away from this situation. Not only this situation, but the last one with Brett Favre as well. Listen to your quarterback. So much talk goes into the NFL draft and around quarterbacks in general about developing these guys, making them kind of the hub, the center of your team that everything else is built around. That's what the offense works off of. That's, if you have success, with the exception of the Legion of Boom team, which Russell Wilson really got shafted for his effort that year.
Yeah.
He was kind of overshadowed by Richard Sherman and all the guys out in Seattle. But normally, your quarterback is the catalyst. He's the one that makes everything happen. And Green Bay has got a terrible track record of discarding excellent quarterbacks. Brett Favre, one of the all-time greats, and he was thrown away like a piece of plastic.
Yeah.
It looks like the same thing is about to happen to Aaron Rodgers. The Jake Kumaro thing was the final straw for Green Bay, and that all could have been avoided by just listening to your quarterback. Because how much better are you going to get than Jake Kumaro?
I mean, they were just saying how it was like that. Aaron really liked this kid, and then all of a sudden they're just like,
The very next day, he was gone. It pissed Aaron off.
It seemed so childish. You know what I mean? It seemed like one of those.
It seems petty. It's not a business decision, right? You're doing this simply to upset your quarterback to the point that he's now ready to leave your team with time left on the contract. If you're Green Bay, listen to your quarterback because he's the man making you money. And I hope whoever comes next, hopefully it's not Jordan Love, but if it is, I wish him the best, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope the new front office or the front office that exists in Green Bay can take a hard lesson from this, because life is about to be a lot tougher for them because they've sent Aaron Rodgers across the country.
You're about to miss the playoffs for a lot of years consecutive, folks. Sorry, Green Bay. And now, if Aaron Rodgers isn't there, is it safe to say, and this is going to sound absolutely insane, Chicago might have the best quarterback situation in the whole entire conference.
The whole entire division changed the dynamic on that. Changed it immensely.
Yeah.
Let's get away from the NFL for a minute. Let's talk about a little college football, if you will.
Okay.
Texas A&M in the news this morning. Jimbo Fisher, being Jimbo Fisher, a little bombastic, a little out there at times, but he had something to say about Alabama. He appeared in front of the Houston Touchdown Club on Wednesday, right? This is an article from ESPN. Some reporter in the crowd asked him what it would take for his Aggies out of TA&M to beat Alabama, other than if Nick Saban were to retire and hand the reins over to someone else. And Jim Fisher said, quote unquote, "We're going to beat his ass when he's there. Don't worry." Okay, so break this down for me. Does Alabama ever lose to Texas A&M? I mean, Nick Saban or not?
I'm not saying that Texas A&M is a college football team on the rise. They have like uber money. Like they have super oil money. Jimbo Fisher is a good coach. He's won championships before in the past.
One.
Championship in the past.
Jameis.
Yeah, and for Jeremy's Florida State Seminoles. Here's the thing. You can go out there and say, I think my team's going to win every game we play. I think, but saying we're going to go out there and beat that ass is a little crazy to talk about Alabama like that. I think that just automatically gives them bulletin board for that going in. And kids in college, that's the kind of thing that will make them just jump through a wall to want to beat a team.
Oh, sure.
Is when they have a bulletin board thing like that. And darn well Nick Saban is going to be pumping that for the entire week prior to that game. I mean, do they play next year? In next year's...
I haven't looked at the schedule.
You know how the SEC works. Sometimes you play, sometimes you don't. And I don't believe
they're both in the West, so they should play.
Yeah,
October 9th.
Okay, so
Alabama,
October 9th.
A&M.
I will be circling that day because there might be some people that get killed on the field. I just think, hey, rah-rah. And on the opposite end, I also think that makes the Texas A&M players are going to want to get up for that game as well. So
I think there's an interesting dynamic. I think coaches are going to react to this differently than the players would because Jimbo Fisher has worked for Nick Saban at one point.
Yeah.
He was on the LSU staff from 2000 until 2004. They went their separate ways. So maybe at the top level, this is a little bit of good-natured ribbing between competitors and between former employers.
Do you think Jimbo called Nick after he said that and said, "Hey man, I was just throwing some stuff out there. Don't get upset"?
I doubt that he did, but I doubt Nick Saban took it as a slight. Now, when we start talking about the players, this is a different situation.
Yeah.
If I'm a linebacker on the Alabama program and I hear that somebody like Jimbo Fisher, the clown that he is, said this about my program,
yeah,
I will run through a brick wall for you. I'm going to come out looking to hunt some heads. And I think this isn't going to work out in Jimbo Fisher's best interest. Because
for sure.
You lost Kellen Mond. He was the best thing you had going for you offensively. I don't really know much about the A&M farm system, what's coming up behind him, but it can't be anything outstanding.
I don't know that. Texas A&M has been getting big recruiting classes over the last couple of years.
But they haven't been Alabama classes.
Well, nobody can be Alabama class. I mean,
and that's the problem.
People would rather be the third string cornerback on Alabama knowing that there's a good chance you're going to be in the pros someday because you're going to that college. It's a little crazy to say those words. I think the better way to put it was, I believe my team is going to win every single game we play when we go out there, no matter who we're playing against.
Now, the whole thing that brought all this on is that Jimbo Fisher has never beaten Alabama as the head coach at Texas A&M. He's 0-3 since he arrived in 2017. And the Crimson Tide have outscored the running Aggies 144-75. They beat them 52-24 last year.
Close.
That was with Kellen Mond. That was a Mac Jones versus Kellen Mond battle.
Yeah, it was a real close game.
52-24.
Yeah, that's exactly. Sarcasm.
That's not going to work. So, Texas A&M, they were able to pull the number 4 in the final CFP rankings, but Jimbo Fisher, this is, what do they call it? Pedo, where you stick your foot in your mouth. I don't have the scientific term on top of my head right now, but this
foot and mouth syndrome is what I always say.
Exactly. Who needs the Latin term for it?
I do that a lot. Foot and mouth syndrome, a lot at the house, a lot. I get in trouble because I say things I probably shouldn't.
Yeah, no doubt. But the one bright side, that is very true. The one bright side for Texas A&M is the fact that Alabama had such of a draft class this year. I mean, Jalen Waddle goes, Devontae Smith goes, Mac Jones goes. The vast majority of that offense goes. The Leatherwood kid, Alex Leatherwood, was an
but it seems to happen every single
tackle.
year, and then we find out right prior to the season that Alabama has another 3 wide receivers that are going to be going in the first round of the NFL draft. So, I mean, Alabama's a team that just reloads and reloads and reloads and reloads. I always said that Alabama's second and third team could possibly be in the top 25 of college football.
Yeah, and I think a statement like this works during a year like COVID when you have nobody in the stands as well, when it's an empty chamber that you're walking into. This year, when everything is fully loaded, when you've got 100% capacity and everyone is drunk and at full throat, you think the fans are going to forget what Jimbo Fisher said? Absolutely not.
Yeah, exactly.
So even if it is good-natured ribbing between coaches, this is just another escalation in the rivalry. And I'll tell you, I am here for it.
Yeah.
I love the animosity between these two teams. It makes for great football. Let's move on to Major League Baseball for just a minute.
Yeah, let's get into this for sure.
In just a minute. We talked about the John Means no-hitter briefly, but let's go into just a little more detail about that. First individual no-hitter for the Orioles since 1969. It was the longest active streak in the majors that a franchise had not had a no-hitter. They did toss a combined no-no back in 1991, but John Means was all over it last night.
Yeah.
27 batters up, 27 batters down. Would have been a perfect game with the exception of the wild pitch on the swinging third strike to put the runner on first base. He would be tagged out trying to get to second base. And this is a game changer for Baltimore simply because they were expected to be in the cellar again coming into the season. In the AL East, you were supposed to be 6-7 games behind the Yankees, the Blue Jays, and all of those guys at this point. My, how the tables have turned. Baltimore's actually looking pretty good, and I'm looking at you, Stephen Tao.
Yeah. Baltimore's coming around. Here's a couple things that were amazing from his game last night. 26 of the 27 batters he faced, he had a first pitch strike. That's pretty awesome. When you can get on top of the hitters and get ahead of the hitters like that, it's almost, you start to be able to believe things that can happen, like a no-no and all these things. Means has never gone more than 7 innings in a game, so this was something that was really cool. He's got some mean stuff, and Tim Kirchin was on this morning talking about some of the things that he has. The kid throws a 94-mile-per-hour fastball with a nasty sinker, a curveball, and what changes his game is the changeup that he has. And what nowadays, going into where we're at in Major League Baseball, you don't have to have a 99-mile-per-hour fastball. If you have a mid or a low 90s fastball that you can counter that with the changeup that works, it's really hard to get a read on that pitcher, and that things are going crazy. There was no walks, no hit batters, no errors. Obviously, we knew that. It was feel-good story about it. He said after the game that his father had died last year with some issues around pancreatic cancer, and his quote was that, I know my dad was there, and he was sitting there telling me what to pitch, and I thought that was really cool.
That's pretty great. I mean, that's just the story that you expect out of somebody who's tossed a no-no. It's huge news. It's one of the biggest things that you can do in the game.
And he was so nonchalant about it. And he's just like, it's a big thing. I'm there, and then obviously he throws out his family and blah, 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 which is good. But he seemed like it was more things to come. Like, hey, I'm doing this, but I want to do more. And Baltimore's team is devolved of a lot of actual stars. Maybe this is someone that they can build the team or at least a pitching staff around in the coming up years.
It helps with John Means kind of being your go-to guy in the rotation, and then you've got Trey Mancini over on the other side.
Yeah.
Didn't play last year because of the cancer and the treatments that he was going through. He's been cleared from his cancer, and he is balling out. 25 RBIs. He's had 119 at-bats already in this 2021 season, so not missing a lot of time. He's had 30 hits already, 9 walks, so he's working the plate well. Trey Mancini is a guy to keep an eye on offensively in Baltimore. And if you look at the AL East race, Baltimore in the cellar as expected, but it's only because they played more games than the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Both Toronto and Baltimore are in the cellar in the AL East with 15 wins. The only thing is Baltimore's lost 2 more games than Toronto. You have to think, both of these teams are getting hot. The Yankees have looked much better. It seems like the Rays are kind of the falling stone out of the AL East because there is no stopping the Boston Red Sox right now, and I did not see that coming.
Yeah, and it makes me just want to go play in oncoming traffic. The Yankees are they're not that far behind, Boston, but to be honest with you, I really thought this was a year going into the season that the Red Sox were going to be just horrible, and I was all in for it. But, of course, somehow, some way, they find a way. And we're very early because the baseball season is 900,050 games. Yes.
Yeah, and for good reason. So,
but the Yankees are coming up. Giancarlo Stanton is on fire right now. He's playing
11-game hitting streak.
Yeah, he's absolutely on fire. I'm really glad that I dropped him in my fantasy baseball. That was real stupid.
Yeah, that was a great call on your part.
We only get like 12 guys on our team. It's one of those leagues where you have to fill in a position, but you only have a certain amount of starts. And I was like, this guy, and he's a DH, and it's really weird rules, and I don't know, but I ended up picking. I did that thing you're not supposed to do. Pick too many guys from your team that you like, because then you end up making these decisions. I had Aaron Judge, I had DJ LeMahieu, and I had Giancarlo Stanton. I was like,
Right. Yeah, you're tossing out too many numbers for him. When you start talking fantasy baseball, there's a lot of math involved in that. But speaking of your Yankees, Giancarlo Stanton, 11-game hitting streak. I think he went 4 for 4 or 4 for 5 last night. He had an excellent night.
4 for 4.
Yes.
Another ding dong.
Went 100%.
Yeah,
he's
for the plate. He's one of those guys that when he hits a ground ball up the middle, it looks like it's going about 4,000 miles an hour, and it's just like, I don't even want to get in front of that ball. But he stands, his bat seems like it's a tree trunk because it's so long, and he stands back and he's so far. And it's just when he does get a hold of it in the sweet spot, that ball is gone most of the time. But Giancarlo Stanton is a little bit more on fire. They have changed, a couple weeks ago I was sitting here with Tank and talking about the decline of the Yankees, and I said we needed to make a couple changes on their lineup. They have done that. The pitching's getting a little bit better than it was, slowly but surely. Corey Kluber is a historically slow start.
Yeah. Domingo German has turned it around.
And I thought it was time to let him go. So, obviously I have zero idea what I'm talking about. But you know, here's the thing. It's just, you know, it's sports. Things happen. You want things to turn around for your team. You know, as episode from, you know, my meltdown on camera during the Giants pick, I do have a tendency to be a little bit angry at my team when we're not doing so well, or they don't do things I like. Now, with that being said, I am not the GM of either team, and I am not a player of either team, so there we are.
You can't hide what's inside, Brian.
Yeah, exactly.
I know that's true. Now, we've been talking about the big bats, but the Yankees-Astros series was a really, really good one. Not only from the fans' perspective, which, you know, it was great to hear the fans just letting Houston have it. They've had to sit on their hands long enough, so might as well uncork a little bit. But when it came to the actual product on the field, I was so impressed with Zach Greinke the other night.
Yeah.
Zach Greinke, and the 53-mile-per-hour ephus pitch.
That's something he's brought in the last couple of years, and I noticed it the other day. There's no idea. I would never be able to hit that pitch. After seeing like 90-mile-per-hour fastballs, you throw in a 53-mile-per-hour ephus pitch, I'm going to be swinging at that 4 times. I'll be like, woof, like the cartoons, you know, like Bugs Bunny came out there and just
around like a tornado.
Bugs Bunny, rah, 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 you know, boom, firecracker. But yeah, it's a little bit crazy. But Zach Greinke is got that new thing in his arsenal, and the thing is, I've always believed one of those are the pitches that if you know it's coming, you're gonna
annihilate it.
But there's also you overswing it and you end up popping it up. It's something that I've always wondered why it's not used as much as often as it is.
Right. Well, number one, it's impossible to get it into the strike zone. I mean, you have to be right on the money to drop a 50-mile-per-hour pitch exactly where it needs to go.
Yeah.
And then again, when a batter gets a beat on it, he's going to just drive it out of the park. That was the thing we saw with Clint Frazier. I mean, he faced Greinke with the ephus pitch, and he just left the bat on his shoulder and watched it work. It was a ball. It was called a strike. It wasn't anywhere close to the zone. I don't know why it was called a strike. All he could do was smile and shake his head. He said, "I'm not even gonna try to hit that." So, I mean, that only tells me the ephus pitch is probably more effective on an 0-2.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
when you need to get the bat off your shoulder, and you just can't. Did you see something in the comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring something up. Jonathan Welch actually sent me a message yesterday on Facebook, and I didn't notice it. And I'm not really into the whole cryptocurrency, and I don't know it much, but I know that it is a pretty large thing surrounding everything right now. I know Dogecoin and all these things are kind of going through the roof.
To the moon.
The New York Giants actually partnered with Grayscale, which is the first crypto move.
Really?
In the NFL. I know that Saquon Barkley kind of did the whole thing. He's into the whole cryptocurrency.
Russell
Okung made lots of money off of it with his contract. But it's not something I really know about. And so if anybody, it's something that maybe we should talk about in the future, but it's weird. I don't know how that connects with the NFL, if that's going to be a super great thing for the Giants, but it's something to put an eye on for the near future.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it becomes a trend just because it is so risky. And with a guy like Okung and these others who are investing, you know, large chunks, percentages of their contract into Bitcoin, into Dogecoin, and all these cryptocurrencies. Is it a bad idea? Well, watching the charts, probably not.
Yeah.
Not at this point.
No.
Now you have a meteoric crash next year, and you lose 30 to 50% of your contract over the next 6 years.
Yeah.
Things are probably gonna change a little bit. You're not gonna be able to influence as many other players to follow that trend once you start losing your ass like that.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily. I haven't gotten into that whole thing. It's probably time I do. I know Tommy gets into it a little bit, so maybe he can teach me the ways. I could be his Padawan,
time to dig
so to speak.
Dig the lockbox up out of the backyard.
Yeah,
I definitely hear you on that.
Open up the mattress. I've been keeping that money stuffed in for a little bit. Don't trust the banks, you know what I mean? Old school.
Well, speaking of the New York Stock Exchange, you've got some weird things happening.
Okay.
Up in New York City. I know we don't talk a lot of NHL on the Sportsocracy.
Okay.
But today we have to.
Oh God.
And we're talking about James Dolan because of this. The New York Rangers yesterday released a statement that their president and GM, John Davidson, the president, and Jeff Gorton, the general manager, had been fired.
Yep.
Completely out of nowhere for no reasons beknownst to anyone in the media. It came as a complete shock that the front office had been gutted by the one and only James Dolan.
Oh, he's so awesome.
Now, knowing a little bit about what's happened with the Rangers over the last couple, and we'll talk more about James Dolan himself in just a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to think maybe this has to do with the assault the other night by Tom Wilson from the Capitals.
Yep.
When I forget who the Rangers player is. He's I think he's a Russian guy or a Slavic guy. He's got one of those Eastern European names. Was laying on the ice
because hockey.
Yeah, exactly. laying on the ice with his helmet off. Tom Wilson he started a brawl already,
Right.
so there's like 5 fights going on around him, and he just decides to start wailing on this defenseless player.
Yeah.
And he does everything to try to defend himself, and Tom Wilson is a massive individual beating on this dude.
And he's that true definition of a goon out there on the ice.
It's not hockey related in any way.
There's one thing about them fighting, and I'm one of those guys that I understand that the fights are actually needed in hockey, because what happens is when it gets chippy,
Yeah.
and when the match gets very chippy, what will end up happening is you'll see more high sticks, you'll see more things. More people are going to get hurt with the other stuff that are going around there if they don't allow these couple guys to go off and all-out brawl.
Yeah, and there's a decorum around this.
Yeah.
There's a specific way that you do this fighting.
Yeah.
And when it's over, it's over. And that's not what we got with Tom Wilson. He goes on to get fined for his role in inciting this brawl.
$5,000.
Yeah, $5,000, the maximum, as much as he could possibly be fined.
Because hockey.
And gets nothing.
Almost kill a guy on ice. We'll fine you $5,000. You're playing the next game.
Just let this dude lie in a pool of himself, and gets no fine at all for this. So because of that, the New York Rangers release a statement the next day, essentially, decrying this decision by the NHL to not fine Tom Wilson, to not suspend him indefinitely. And they essentially went on to call for the heads of the NHL, the head of players safety and player development.
Yeah, absolutely.
Called for his firing. Said that he is no longer able to perform his duties because he didn't fine Tom Wilson. Now, whether or not they have a point is kind of beside the point.
Right.
James Dolan as a member of the New York media market. You know him a hell of a lot better than I do.
Listen, James Dolan is the worst.
Yeah. So what factors into this decision for him?
It's really weird because James Dolan has done kind of the opposite of what he's done with the Knicks, with the Rangers. He's kind of kept a hands-off approach with the Rangers and allowed things to happen. I think that's what is very surprising, is that the Rangers front office kind of took this whole stance of saying, that we can't have this in sports, we can't do this, and then Dolan fires them. So it kind of looks like, from a perspective, that he's fired him because they went out and said something against the big bad boys. Now, James Dolan is by far and will always be the absolute worst owner in all of sports, and you can't tell me any different. I'm a lifelong Knicks fan, and this
You can't
guy,
tell him any different.
This guy is just the absolute worst. I have a list of things, just controversies that I've had to endure under the Knicks regime, and that doesn't even include what he's allowed to happen to the team, even though we're pretty good right now. If anybody's noticed, we're doing really, really well, and I'm really excited going into the playoffs about this. But he took the job in 1990. Well, he got the job because of Daddy and all that good stuff, and took over what was MSG Entertainment, and he's the chairman and CEO of MSG Sports and MSG Entertainment, which makes him the owner of not only the Knicks but the Rangers as well. He gets hired, and he gets promoted in '99 to being the CEO of all these things. Couple years they're just bad years. The Patrick Ewing after that kind of ran off. We went to the finals. We get into this, and then it was, I think, early 2000s, the hiring of Isaiah Thomas.
Right.
It was just an absolute dumpster fire. We go into the sexual harassment suits, all these kind of things that happened surrounding that. He was the worst GM in not only I think history of sports, as most people would look back on it. Really, really, really bad. He might be up there with Al Gutenquist right now from Green Bay, but. We go into that. Then in 2007, Dolan has his own sexual harassment case.
Right.
And, that kind of always gets thrown in the rug because when you have uber money, one girl coming out and saying something's not going to make a difference.
Before Me Too, you could easily push that under the rug.
Which is bullshit to begin with. Well, that's a story for another time because we don't talk politics here. And then in 2015, and this is when I think for me as a fan, I've always kind of not liked him. But this is when the things start to get out of hand and he needs to leave. 2015, a 73-year-old man writes a letter saying, that the Dolan's the worst, blah, 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 blah.
I remember this. Yeah.
He basically told the 73-year-old man that go ahead and be a Nets fan because the Knicks don't need you.
Right.
Dude, shut up. Just stop talking.
Guess what? You made somebody a Nets fan.
Yeah. 2017, Charles Oakley. We all know what happened surrounding that, which is still coming up till this day. You have Spike Lee, who joined after that with that thing, where he wasn't even going to the games anymore, and he had to be. It was like Spike Lee has done whatever he's in. He's like the biggest fan of theirs ever had, and he couldn't even get to the seats or whatever. He was walking around. There were some different things about it, but the way it was handled afterwards was just really, really, really weird. And then in 2019. Dolan started threatening fans who brought signs to the stadium saying that he should sell the team. Mm-hmm. That just sounds like this big cry. Oh my God, they're talking about me like that. You're not going to be able to come to the game because of this. And it's just a continuation of being so dumb. And if you listen to any of his music, it's even freaking worse. Like this guy's in a band.
He has music?
He's in a folk band that he's in it. And if you want to listen to something that'll make your ears bleed, I suggest you go out. Basically, he's a wannabe rock star who has lots of money, so he was able to start his own band. And obviously, people will get him on there. But this music is absolutely piss poor and terrible. He's absolutely terrible. And it's just crazy that he, not only now has he almost ruined the Knicks because the Knicks are still starting to play good, which I really, really like, but maybe, I want him gone. I want him gone, and he doesn't need to be an owner of any team, let alone two teams in sports.
I mean, it's James Dolan doing what James Dolan does. The Patrick Ewing incident from earlier this year during the Big East tournament.
I mean,
Security didn't realize who Patrick Ewing was, but you've got to make sure, hey guys, these are the ones that you have to let into the. You have to make sure these guys get where they need to be safely and without harassment.
Fucking jerseys in the rafters. He doesn't need an ID.
You have to know who Patrick Ewing is.
And it's not like Patrick Ewing is unmistakable. He's 7'3" and just, everybody should know who. Everybody in the building of MSG should know exactly who Patrick Ewing is.
Everybody knows who the president is, and everybody knows who Patrick Ewing is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's those two things. But the Rangers thing is just another head-scratching thing because it comes at a really weird time when your organization needs some solidarity. You need somebody to stand behind you and stand with you as you go up against the NHL. Instead, James Dolan fires the two most important figureheads of his front office. And then that same night, the Rangers and the Capitals get into a fight right out of the opening gate, going back to the Tom Wilson situation.
And if you didn't know that was going to happen, you don't watch much hockey because I knew that was going to happen right before. And then the minute that Tom Wilson comes in the game, Brandon Smith just tackles him. And that's the ugly part of the hockey. You don't want to see that kind of thing, but that's what... You got to do something about it. You can't have a guy assault someone on the ice, and that was what it was. It was an assault,
right? And
that you can only fine him $5,000, and you don't suspend him for any games. You're going to know that exactly what happened yesterday was going to happen.
Yeah. And so this rematch between the Caps and the Rangers, it happened 2-3 days after this last incident.
Right.
Had you suspended Tom Wilson, not indefinitely, not even for 2 weeks, but just for 2 or 3 games, just to send a message. He misses this game. You don't get the kerfuffle that happens.
Look at the schedule, out there. The higher ups in NHL. Look at what's happening here. Notice that the Rangers they're going to be a rematch in 3 days. You got to be smart about because something really bad could have happened last night, and they're very lucky that it didn't.
Yeah, you get a Happy Gilmore situation, and somebody stabs someone else with a skate.
I got kicked out of my league for taking my skates off and trying to stab somebody with it.
Yeah, but it's just in a leadership vacuum when the top dog isn't going to step in and provide discipline and order,
right,
then the situation is going to sort itself out at the lower level. I mean, you're going to get players who are going to defend their team, plain and simple. So that's what's happening with James Dolan's hockey team. Now, your Knicks are surprising.
Oh, yeah.
Your Knicks are really surprising, especially since they're 4th right now in the Eastern Conference. Not really keeping pace with the top 3. We've got the 3-team breakaway in the East with Philly, Brooklyn, and Milwaukee, whose head coach is in a little bit of a hot seat himself right now. They're set the Knicks solidly in 4th place at 37-29. Yep. They're a lot to be a playoff team this year. Julius Randle and Derrick Rose to a lesser extent, but Julius Randle has been phenomenal.
Oh God, he's playing out. And I've talked about this on the show over the last couple of weeks because we did get absolutely street punked by the Denver Nuggets last night. Germans fighting Denver Nuggets. It was not very good. We lost by a lot of points. We still won 12 out of 14. We're actually, I think the record since Derrick Rose has joined our team, we're 21-9 since Derrick Rose has joined the team.
I'll take it.
Tom Thibodeau has them playing. They're the number 1 defensive team in the entire league. As a Knicks fan, there's something to be happy about going into a playoff series. It looks like no matter what happens, barring some sort of crazy catastrophe collapse through the rest of the season, we're not going to have to play one of the big 3 in the Eastern Conference. Philadelphia, Brooklyn, or Milwaukee. So it looks like we're going to get, more than likely, we're going to be playing the Atlanta Hawks in the first season, who are another team, up-and-coming team. And I think that's going to be a really awesome playoff series. I think this is definitely going to go 6 or 7 games. I'm looking forward to having a meaningful New York Knicks basketball game in the postseason. We've made it there before, but I never even thought without it. When we've made it there in the last couple years, which is not the last couple years, I mean, Christ, I can't even remember the last time we were in it, probably Carmelo Amari years. And
has to be. Yeah.
And you didn't really think that we had opportunities of really doing some damage. I have a feeling this team can definitely win a playoff series and can give one of those big 3 in the next round a run for their money. Do I think that they can advance past one of these big 3 teams? I'm going to lean on the side of no, but I think they're going to make it really, really, really tough for one of those teams. I would absolutely just be over the hill excited for a Knicks and Brooklyn series.
Oh, that'd be great.
You know what I mean? It would be awesome, and I would just love it if the Knicks could somehow beat them, because I don't like this super team thing, and I really think that they're not as good as people say they are. I mean, the 3 of the big 3 have played 11 or something games together. It's pretty crazy how low amount of games they're playing going into a playoff series. But, Julius Randle's out of this world. I think he's easily going to be second, or if he's not second team second team All-NBA, then they're doing it wrong, I think. He'll probably end up in that third team NBA, All-NBA, but I think he's definitely a second team All-NBA player. He's actually probably going to get somebody's going to vote for him for MVP.
Oh, no doubt. You look at the highlights every single night that the New York Knicks have a game. Julius Randle is coming up with just a ridiculous performance. He's holding it down. By the way, the last time the Knicks were in a playoff series, almost 10 years ago, 2012, 2013, they did get out of the first round. They knocked off the Celtics 4-2, but then turned around and lost to their favorite people in the world, the Indiana Pacers, in the second round in a 4-2 loss in the second round of the playoffs. So that rivalry is dead, is it not? The New York-Indiana rivalry, that provides no further relevance. We're going to go ahead and write the Reggie Miller days
if they were to play each other, it would be obviously brought up and tried to make it something that it is. But unless Reggie Miller's going to end up in the stands and him and Spike will be talking to each other, then it's the only thing. I mean, if Reggie's calling the game and Spike's there, I'm sure they'll have some sort of lovely moment where they talk or they bring it back up, and I'm sure the whole choking incident will be out there and played over and over and over and over
Which
again.
I'm here for. I can watch that all day.
That was some of my favorite times watching back. Those Knicks teams were such hard
they were tough.
Bad mofos. I loved them all. We just, and the team, even still going into those teams later on, that we end up making the damn finals with an A seed. The Charles Sprewell and Houston years were always fun for me as well. But again, going back to the fact, I don't think the Knicks are going to win an NBA championship. I think they can win a series, and I think they can give somebody a scare in that next round. But I'm going to be here for it, screaming and yelling at the TV screen, and it should be really, really fun.
Oh, you better believe it. Well, for me, the turning point for the Knicks was like a month ago when they should have lost to the New Orleans Pelicans. New Orleans Pelicans. That New Orleans was up like 7, I think, in the final minute or something like that, and New York closed it down the stretch.
Yeah.
New Orleans missed what would have been a buzzer beater New York tied the game with less than a second left off of a blown defensive assignment. And won the game handily in overtime. That proved to me that they had the balls. They had the whereabouts to pull themselves out of the depths of a loss, win the game, and move on to the next.
It proves a team's might when you can have games like that, and you have to finish games. There's a lot of teams that can play 3 quarters in the NBA. There's a lot of teams that can play in all sports. There's a lot of teams that play. I think we saw this with the NFL reference from last year, the Los Angeles Chargers. They were in every single game, and they just blew it at the fourth quarter. They didn't know how to win yet.
Even if you lose by 1, it's still a loss.
They didn't know how to win yet, and I think they're changing there. I think we're going to see a little bit difference in the Chargers, and I think that's what happened with the Knicks. They're all bought into the system that if we're all going to play for each other, and we're going to play crazy good defense, and we have enough scoring to keep us in games, as long as we play good defense and we can close out some games, we're going to do some well.
The playoff bracket on the eastern side of things is really beginning to get interesting, especially if things hold the way that they are right now, which they probably won't. We may see a little bit of shifting just because of how tight those 4th through 8th spots are in the Eastern Conference. But if things hold the way they are, just like you said, Brian, the Knicks and the Hawks will play in round 1. These are 2 upstart teams. Neither one were really expected to be factors coming into the season. They put all the pieces together. Clint Capella has been electric for the Atlanta Hawks, and I mean, he's been the difference so far. 37-30, the Hawks sit in the 5 seed, just behind the Knicks. these two teams could flip-flop a couple more times before we finally get to the end of the schedule.
Yeah,
They're that close.
Yeah, the 6, 7, 8 is interesting because, we're in the Hornets market here in Asheville, and obviously LaMelo's back, and it would be nice to see the Hornets back into a playoff series. And they got a lot of young talent. The thing is, the Celtics and the Heat being in that 6, 7, 8, one of those three teams, it looks like either Celtics or Heat, they're going to be battling out to get into that 6 seed to begin with. And it's funny that then the Celtics or the Heat would have to play what looks like the Hornets for that 7th seed, and then, that weird, and I don't know how much I like this idea. I guess maybe I need to see it happen in fruition. I think it brings more eyeballs to it. I think it's another money grab. But, I kind of like the whole, it kind of brings up March Madness kind of thing, playing kind of game. So I like that atmosphere. It's just, you never know in these situations in an NBA game, someone could go just get crazy, crazy hot, and then you have a team, like I'm talking going into the West. Yeah. We were talking about this a couple weeks ago, where would you want to be across in a play winner go home game against Steph Curry right now? Because I would not, because you don't know if he's going to hit 14 3-pointers and you're sent home. And one of those teams could be the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah. The thing is, the philosophy you have to have is you can't fear a single player. Steph Curry is the hottest player in the world right now. You don't know how long that hot hand is going to last. Right. And if you're anyone else in the West, you hope it doesn't last much longer. Steph Curry is one guy of 5 on the floor. Yeah. If he's the only one that has a great night and everyone else sucks, Golden State probably loses the game and they go on to lose the series. So I'm less worried about one player getting hot. It is a team like the Atlanta Hawks that puts all the pieces together at once and really gets the whole train moving in the same direction. That is a team that can really do some damage. As far as the East is concerned, I think spots 1 through 7 are pretty well locked in, even though the teams may do a little bit of order changing on the big board. Well, the
7 is going to have to play in that 7-8 game.
Right.
The winner would be the 7th seed. The loser would play the winner of the 9-10 game. That would end up, the winner of that would end up being the 8th seed.
Exactly. So it looks like the Heat are going to be the final demarcation in the Eastern Conference. Right now, they're actually tied with the Celtics for the 6th spot in the Eastern Conference. The Hornets, I think, are the only ones that have to fight for their playoff lives at this point, because in the 8th spot, the Hornets are 32-33. The Pacers right behind at 30-35, and the Wizards in 10th at 30-36.
And the Wizards have been playing really good ball lately.
They've been playing excellent.
I mean, Russell Wilson's playing out of control good, and that's what he can do. The problem is it doesn't win championships. And that's the thing about Russell. He's going to go out there and he's going to give you a triple-double every game. He's going to play his ass off. He's going to be flying all over the thing. It's just we haven't seen it work as far as championship ball goes yet. And it's not like Russell Wilson's getting any younger.
No, he's
Wilson.
not.
Russell, wow. I did the Tank Spencer thing and said Russell Wilson. Russell Westbrook.
There we go. I didn't even notice it. I just blocked it out.
Yeah.
For me, the thing about Russell Wilson, or I did too.
Oh God,
I did too. Russell Westbrook.
I rub off on the guys.
he's a highly influential fellow.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, when he said, what was it? He said that having a ring doesn't matter. I actually did. I have a segment I do every Wednesday on the ESPN Nashville show called Chew on That, where I kind of break down some of the most bombastic things that go on in sports over the course of the week. And that didn't sit well with me. I understand what he's trying to get at. I understand he's trying to say it's only the game of basketball. But dude, this is your life. This is your livelihood. It's what you do. This is who you are as a person, a basketball player. And if you're telling me that not having a ring doesn't bother you, I've got no place for you on my team. I don't care how many triple doubles you put up. Of course it does. The fact that the money that he's worth and the fact that he's even talking about it.
People who say that rings don't matter don't have any.
Exactly. Yeah, they've never been in a situation to win one.
That's Charles Barkley right there.
Right. The thing, Russell Westbrook, he's been surrounded by talent, but he's been surrounded by a parasitic kind of talent. He's been around the James Hardens of the world who, again, I think this is the best chance he's going to get a ring is this year.
Well, no. I mean, who, James Harden?
James Harden.
Well, yeah, absolutely. They've figured something out in Washington, and him and Bradley Beal are playing really well together. There's something to be said. He hasn't been on. I always thought maybe if you put Russell on a team with like LeBron, that would be something. I think it would be something that could maybe work just because he plays his butt off. He is a little bit more ball dominant than I'd like him to be. And he chucks up threes when he can't make threes. He'll hit at about a 30% clip or 25% clip sometimes, which is not what you need. But he is someone that if reined in, and I think maybe if Russell in his coming up, more the years he's playing in the NBA, how many more years he's got left, I don't know. I mean, these guys seem like they can play freaking forever with all the training and everything that they have nowadays. But if he could ever just kind of get the idea of, I'm going to be that motor guy, I'm going to come off and give spark to some team, but I don't need the ball in my hands, I think it would make for him to have a better chance of getting to that ring.
Westbrook has been good. He's been a distraction at times. Just like James Harden, just like Kevin Durant, just like LeBron James, frankly, is sometimes a distraction more than he is a benefit, even though you look at the Lakers' numbers without him, and it's not good without LeBron on the floor. You really do need number 23 out there. That's the reason you have him on your staff. One guy who's been essentially nothing but a distraction is Kyrie Irving. Would you agree? I mean, he's put up numbers with the Brooklyn Nets. He's been an integral part of this team. But now Kyrie Irving getting fined $35 grand for violating the NBA's media access rules. He's been refusing to talk to the media, and it's now cost him $35 large.
And this guy's the definition of a prima donna, and he's getting on my nerves more and more and more and more. And that's one thing. He's the main reason why I want Brooklyn to lose as soon as possible in the playoffs, because I'd like to see certain teams I don't have that much against James Harden. I think he kind of was the way he left in Houston was kind of shitty, but he can play ball. Kevin Durant's one of those guys. You want to see the team, but Kyrie Irving just taking off whenever he wants, and it's always some sort of personal reason, and he's always doing this and he's always doing that, and it just seemed like he just gets on my nerves so much, and I'm just beginning to just hate him with every fiber of my being.
Kyrie Irving, 27 points per game. But how many games? He hasn't played the full schedule. I'm not sure how many he's missed, but it's been more than a handful. 6.3 assists per game. So when he's in the game, he's contributing.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt about that. Kyrie Irving is a factor.
Yeah.
The thing is when is he going to be a factor? When is Kyrie going to show up? And
I just don't. It could happen. It can happen at any time. It can happen in the playoffs. I think Kyrie's the kind of guy who he just might be, game 4 of a series and just say, I need to take the day off for personal reasons.
Yeah,
if that happens, he should just retire, because I'm just so sick and tired.
If I'm your boss, you're fired.
Yeah.
Seriously.
But you can't. He's Kyrie Irving. You just said it. 27 points a game.
He's gotten paid more in 5 minutes. And
you just hope that he doesn't do them at the wrong times. Yeah, it's the whole sort of thing that's going on about some of the things about the NBA, why people are tuning out of the NBA, and you're seeing a decline in the ratings. Kyrie Irving is a perfect example of why people are tuning out of the NBA. They don't want to see a guy who's getting paid millions and millions and millions of dollars just take a day off whenever he wants, show up whenever he wants. That's not what I think Americans want to see in these kind of guys. They're already having them kind of, the whole idea of them just being who they are right now. And the whole thing, they look at him and they say, I don't want to see that kind of shit. No. And it's gotten to a point where I'm even just like, I'm over it. I don't want to. I hope you lose first round, and I hope you go home crying.
Hit that damn bell. You want to round it out. You're talking about the playoffs. The playoffs? Yeah, let's talk about playoffs. Because right now, the Nets at number 2 in the Eastern Conference, the Heat as the 7 seed. That would be, assuming we forget all about this play-in tournament, which I think the Heat would advance past the Hornets anyway. That's your number 2 and number 7 first round, the Nets and the Heat.
Yeah.
The Heat are not a team you want to run into in the first round. We saw that last year. Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, who everyone hates and I think is one of the greatest men to come off the bench, in modern history. You can always count on Tyler Hero to have the ball in his hands.
He hasn't played as well as I thought Tyler Hero would be playing this year, but that doesn't, I think.
But he showed up in the playoffs last year, too.
That's the kind of thing. The playoffs is a whole different animal. If you know anything about NBA basketball, once you get to the playoffs, it's a lot different.
War. It's
they start to play a little bit more defense. The shots matter. If you take too many bad shots, you're ending. You don't start chucking up as many three-pointers as they usually do unless you're on fire. If they do actually run some bit of offense, it's mainly just pick and roll off the top and see what happens with somebody in the big. And there's just a little bit less of the things that bother you during a regular season. Less ISO, more defense, more of these things. And Tyler Hero played awesome. I don't want to play Jimmy Butler in a series ever, because that guy's just a maniac psycho, and he can just take over games. And what he did last year in that bubble playoffs was unbelievable. And And I guess it was funny. He was on there, and I don't know the context of actually what was happening, but I think someone just asked him like some sort of stupid question, and it was about like Milwaukee, about are they worried about that, and they're playing them, and he was just like, well, if your bum ass was out there playing, I wanted to be worried about it. And I just love that guy. I like, go out there and just say whatever he does, but he plays. He goes out and plays. He's not a Kyrie Irving who's going to take personal days or things like that. He does miss games due to injuries, but it's not. You don't hear Jimmy Butler decided to go home for a week because he's sad or something.
Got to give me something. You have to be in the game. You have to produce, and you have to earn your paycheck. One last thing before we get out of here, Brian. It looks like the Eastern Conference is pretty well locked up as far as the number 1 seed. The Philadelphia 76ers doesn't look like anyone's going to be able to stand in their way. The Embiids, the Ben Simmons of the world have just been lighting it up. Eastern Conference is well in the hands of the Sixers. The Western Conference is where things get a little fun. 1 and 2. It's going to be a photo finish at the end of this regular season. The Jazz and the Suns. Now, the Phoenix came into yesterday in the number 1 spot with Devin Booker and company. And now the Jazz have flip-flopped up into the number 1 position. 48 and 18 are Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, who's actually, I think he's out with an injury for the foreseeable future. And that's going to be that's going to have a huge impact. Without having Spida on the floor, it's hard to see a situation where Utah can stand up to Phoenix in the long run.
Well, here's the thing. We were just here, me and Tank were a couple weeks ago looking at the situation, and it was Jazz, Suns, but it was Clippers, Lakers, Nuggets, Mavericks, and going down, so forth.
How the mighty have
It's changed
fallen.
big time. Denver, I can't believe they're playing as well as they are. I mean, I knew that they were still a good team without Jamal Murray, who is gone for the season. But they're still, and they are definitely a contender still. Where I said that they're probably not a contender in the Western Conference, I'm eating crow right now because I do think now, after the last couple weeks, seeing how they're playing without him, they definitely are, because Joker is unbelievable. This guy, if he does not win MVP, I'm going to just quit watching basketball, I think, because it's absolutely insane. He's not only the one that's still standing, but he's also the best player in the damn game right now. He's playing so good. The Lakers keep falling, and they keep falling, and they keep falling, and now the reports are out that LeBron's ankle is much worse than most people expect, and he won't be able to actually take care of it to the thing. And I just don't know. It almost seems like LeBron complained about the offseason when they didn't have so many games. LeBron complained that we didn't have about the All-Star break. LeBron, who last year said this playing thing is awesome, is now saying that it's the dumbest idea.
So whoever came up with it needs to be fired.
It should be fired. And now it's almost like he's setting it up to like, well, my ankle's hurt. That's why we didn't win these things.
Right. It's all about me.
But that's LeBron James, and he could be also on the other end of LeBron James. He could be saying that to just like okey doke people in, and then just completely tear them up all over the place. Here, I am also now. Tank was a huge believer in the Phoenix Suns. He thinks they're really good.
They're not bad.
They're really, really good, and Chris Paul is one of my. And I've said it behind Magic Johnson, Chris Paul is the best floor general that I've seen in my lifetime.
100%.
And I'm just saying it as a floor general. I'm not saying the best point guard. I'm not saying he's the best floor general. He gets the best out of every team that he's playing for.
As far as running the show is concerned,
making sure that guys are right, and when Chris Paul wants to, I mean, the game that they played against the Knicks that broke the streak that they had, he just took over the last couple minutes of that game, step back three, this, that, and that, another thing. And he still is going to be a good player. The West is going to be an interesting thing because when it all plays out and it shapes out, once we get to the top 8, there isn't necessarily a series in that conference that I don't look at and say, there's a good chance this team could beat this team. I mean, even an 8-1 series against the Jazz. Jazz are really good defensively, and they do, but they don't have I think Donovan Mitchell is a superstar that gets undervalued sometimes, but they don't have a LeBron James, they don't have a Kevin Durant, they don't have a James Harden, they don't have a Steph Curry. So people tend to look at them as a team that's not going to do much, even though they're a number 1 team.
Even though they're in the top seed.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be interesting going into that playoffs. Is that could be really good series starting right from the first round.
Well, 2.5 weeks left in the regular season, and this thing is far from being settled out. Last week when LeBron starts talking about the play-in tournament, and I'm thinking, why does he care? The Lakers they're not even going to be close to being involved in this. And then I start looking at the record, and I watch the Lakers continuing to fall to the bottom of the lake. 37-28. The Lakers are in the 6th seed. 37-29.
Yeah.
The Trailblazers are at number 7.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're LA, you don't have a lot of room to work with here.
Yep.
Now you talk about teams on the rise. Jay Morant's Grizzlies they're going to be around. The Warriors at the 9 seed. They're not in the playoffs yet, but they've got a chance to play their way in. You know, if we were to start the playoffs today, they'd have a chance to get in via the play-in tournament.
Yep.
So they're on the Western side anyway. This thing is far from being nailed down.
Yep, for sure.
One last thing before we get off the air. 1 o'clock this afternoon. Make sure you're right here on the Sportsocracy as Tommy Bradley. It'll be the first time you've ever seen him on camera. He and Jeremy Greene. We're going to talk about a new platform that we're rolling out where you, the fans, can actually contribute. You've been asking how you can contribute, how you can benefit the guys at the Sportsocracy and what we do here as far as advancing our brand and making us better. And we've actually found a way to do that. It's called Patreon. 1 o'clock this afternoon. Jeremy and Tommy are going to go live right here in the Wicked Weed Studios, and we want your input. We want you in the comments telling us what you want. What giveaways would you like? What would you like to receive with paid content? What would you be willing to pay for that content? That's what we're looking for. 1 o'clock this afternoon sharp. 1-ish. I'm not going to say 1 o'clock. 1-ish this afternoon.
And it's
going to be live.
It's going to be a really cool thing, guys. We actually have, looking at what they were coming up with together as a team over there of what you guys can get out of these things. It's going to be really, really awesome, and I can't wait for you guys to hear about it. Once again, if you have any ideas, send them to us. You can hit us up at JGreene at ESPN on Twitter. You can hit us up in the comments on YouTube. Hit us up on Facebook. Any of our platforms, we're across the board. Once again, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, we're all across the board on that.
And again, this is about what you want to hear. This is individualized, specific content for your sport, or if you're looking for maybe an NFL draft perspective, we'll have that. If you're looking for fantasy football, we're going to have that coming up in the summertime. Baseball, NASCAR, NHL.
Yeah, we're going to hit everything, guys.
Right.
Jeremy has a big announcement this afternoon, too.
Jeremy also has a big announcement this afternoon. Are you going to lock that in with the Patreon announcement? So Jeremy also, opposite of the Patreon announcement, our good friend Jeremy Greene also has another huge announcement, and I can't wait for you guys to hear all that as well.
It's huge. It's going to be big 1 o'clock this afternoon. This has been the Sportsocracy. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Caleb Peak at CPeakAVL. He is Brian Haynes at the Sportsocracy.
We're still going to change that.
Eventually.
Like today. It's happening.
We've got people for
that is the worst Twitter handle of all time. And
nope, it doesn't have 19 numbers in it.
And I'm better than that. I'm better than just B Sportsocracy. Yes, I think so.
I would give you that.
Okay, there you go. Awesome.
We're live in the Wicked Weed studio here in Asheville, North Carolina, brought to you by Wicked Weed Brewing. Drink different. Join us tomorrow morning live right here at 9. Well, is it 9 or I think we'll be at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning again. Yeah,
we will let everybody know what time we're going to be here.
Stay tuned. Hold the phone. It'll be 9:30 or 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. As soon as we can get everyone here, we'll make sure to go live on the air. Join us then, rather. Have a good day.